It was first created in 1963. There have been 15 different incarnations, and in total over 100 different models. So you'd think that the world might have grown bored of the 911. But somehow, no. Sales are stronger than ever. The Porsche's image hasn't waned. And even now, despite being around for over 40 years, the 911's only real rival is, as ever, itself. You see, Ferraris are now nearly twice as expensive. Jags, Mercs and BMW's new 6 Series are perhaps a bit too soft-focused. And exciting though a Maserati may sound, it simply can't match the usability, reliability and sheer thrill of driving a Porsche. So how do they stay one step ahead? Simple, by gentle, progressive evolution. Which means this new 911, or is it that one? No, it's definitely this one. Looks almost exactly like its predecessor. Until, that is, you start noticing the subtle changes, like a return to the classic oval headlamps, a slightly more exaggerated hip line to accommodate a wider rear track, and a more aggressive grille. So, as usual, most of the big changes are under the skin. Prices have only increased by a few percent, and of course you get more power. Initially there are 2 models, the 58 grand entry-level Carrera with a 3.6 litre flat 6 and 325 horsepower, and this Carrera S with 3.8 litres and 355 bhp, which will set you back 65 grand. To cope with that extra power and a slight increase in the torque, there's an all-new 6-speed gearbox, which is just as good as the old one. And if anything, the clutch pressure is a little bit lighter. However, one first for a new 911 is a variable power steering rate, so that at slow speeds, it's nice and easy for parking, whereas at high speeds, it's just as sensitive as it always was. And the rack, in this case, is a bit quicker than before, so less turns from lock to lock. But perhaps the most important first is the first time they've had an active suspension management option, so that now, with it switched off, you've got a slightly softer Porsche for mainly road use. It's a little more comfortable ride, although on the previous one, the ride was never a problem. Now, however, if you want a more sporting feel, you can switch your PASM on and everything stiffens up nicely. The car actually lowers itself 10 millimetres as well to increase the aerodynamic thrust through the air. But one thing that never changes is that glorious wail from the flat 6 behind you. One major criticism of the old car was its interior, which lacked any visual drama and for the money felt cheap. Although the new 911 feels far better built and is decorated with some metallic eye candy, it's still no Aston Martin DB9 inside. But then again, Porsche have never made grand interiors. Instead, they've always concentrated on very functional ones, and this 911 is no exception. Mind you, they've got a bit carried away with the cup holders. Although it does look like a carbon copy of its predecessor, Porsche have gone to great lengths to make this 911 more slippery through the air. All the body panels are new, apart from the one on the roof, and they've even added a new under tray to further reduce drag. Even these A-pillars are slightly more rounded, whilst they've added these fancy door mirrors, not only to allow the air to clean the side window, but also for it to flow more smoothly to the spoiler at the back. But then perhaps you'd only notice little things like that on an autobahn or a racetrack. So with our PASM on and our PSM Porsche Stability Management off, and a greasy Silverstone circuit beneath our fat 19-inch rims, it's time to see just how good this new Porsche is. Oh, bit of understeer there. No, I hadn't expected that. The grip at the back of this Porsche seems to be amazing. Hardly any any need for stability control at all if there's that sort of grip available in these greasy conditions. Again, the back seems to be planted even when I'm on full throttle. But doubtless the tight twists of Club Corner, which is very tight. Surely the back's gonna kick a bit here. Oh, no, it grips well. And the other way. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, the back went out, but not for long. Very easily controllable. Unbelievable that this car that was so famed for its dodgy rear end can be driven so hard in such greasy conditions. The gearbox a real delight out on the track. Slicking up to 5th gear now and pulling 127, 8, 930 miles an hour. Well, little back end just went, but then again it goes back into understeer. This car is incredibly stable for one with such a wild reputation. But when you're right down to the tight stuff, it's time to play. So, the 911 remains by far the best way to spend 60 grand on a car. I know a lot of people make a big fuss about the new Aston Martin AM V8 that's due out next year. But to beat this, it's going to have to be something very, very special indeed.